Welcome to A Slice with Dice, where we explore the real-life experiences of school leadership. I'm Corey Alderdice, Executive Director of the Arkansas School for Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts. I'm a seasoned school administrator of specialized programs and will share personal reflections, lessons learned, and insights from the ever-evolving world of education. Whether you're a teacher, leader, parent, or simply passionate about schools, join me as we dive into the challenges and triumphs of guiding schools and shaping our communities. Here's this week's thought. We're going to talk about a phrase that's been tossed around a lot: highly selective colleges. Now, you've probably heard it a million times, and it's usually said with a sense of awe, right? But today, I want to flip that script a bit. Instead of calling these schools highly selective, let's start thinking of them as highly rejective. Now, you might be thinking, why this change in terminology? And that's exactly what we're going to unpack in today's episode. So let's start with why we call these universities highly selective in the first place. It's a term that implies a sense of prestige and exclusivity. It makes you think of a school carefully picking the very best students from an ocean of applicants. The phrase itself sounds almost like a compliment. Selective, meaning they're discerning, they're choosing the cream of the crop. But here's the thing, when you dig a little bit deeper, that term doesn't really capture what's happening. Let's look at the numbers. The most elite schools in the country, think Harvard, Stanford, MIT, have acceptance rates that hover around 4 to 6%. That means 94 to 96% of the students who apply get a rejection letter. 94 to 96%. That's a huge number, right? So if you're one of those, say, 95% who didn't get in, does that mean you weren't enough? Or maybe it's not about being selective at all, but rather about how many people are simply turned away. This brings me to why the term highly rejective might be more accurate. When a school is rejecting 19 out of every 20 applicants, the focus isn't so much on selection as it is on rejection. And the impact that rejection has is something we need to talk about. For many students, getting that rejection letter can feel like a judgment of their worth, their capabilities, even their future. It's not just a sorry, we don't have room for you, but often feels like a sorry, you're not good enough. And that's a heavy burden to carry. You see, calling these schools highly rejective puts the focus back on the process and the emotional toll it takes. It acknowledges that the vast majority of applicants are left out, not because they aren't talented or deserving, but because the system is designed that way. It's not about being the best fit, it's about being one of the few who make it through what is nearly an impossible gauntlet. Now, I'm not saying we should villainize these institutions. They do have a limited number of seats, and admissions officers and enrollment management professionals have to make tough decisions. But I do think it's important to shift the narrative. When we talk about highly selective schools, we tend to place them on a pedestal, as if getting in is the ultimate goal. But when we start referring to them as highly rejective, it changes the conversation. Here's the thing, there are thousands of colleges and universities out there. Most of them have acceptance rates that are much more reasonable, and they offer fantastic education and opportunities. But they often get overshadowed by the handful of schools whose tiny acceptance rates make the headlines. By calling these elite schools highly rejective, we can begin to recognize that there's more to a great education than just attending a brand name institution. And let's not forget what this term does to the students themselves. If we start thinking of these schools as highly rejective, it might help to shift the mindset of applicants. Instead of seeing a rejection as a personal failure, they might start to see it as part of a process that is incredibly competitive and, frankly, a little bit arbitrary. It's not a reflection of their worth or their potential. It's just the unfortunate nature of the game. So what can we do with this new perspective? Well, First, we can be more mindful of the language we use. When we talk about colleges, especially with young people who are in the thick of the admissions process, let's try to focus less on the prestige of selective schools and more on finding the right fit for each individual. We can also encourage students to apply broadly and to schools where they'll thrive, not just the ones with the smallest acceptance rates. And for those who do face rejection from these highly rejective schools, let's remind them that it's not the end of the world. In fact, it might just be the beginning of a different and just as rewarding path. Remember, whether you're a student, a parent, or an educator, the goal isn't to get into a highly selective school. It's to find a place where you can grow, learn, and succeed. After all, where you go isn't the same as who you'll become. A Slice with Dice is a production of the Arkansas School for Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts. I hope today's reflection sparked some thoughts for your own journey. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. Let's keep learning and leading together. Until next time, keep striving for growth and excellence. Thanks for tuning in.